Gerald, thank you very much for your time, my friend. I want to say you're coming up against a tough opponent in Oskar, who's got an O that you probably feel needs to go.
That's right. Yeah. No, he's looks like a pretty tough kid. You know, of course, I looked up his 2 UFC fights. I saw, I believe it was a Cage Warriors fight that he had also.
Yeah.
You know, he looks like a game opponent. To me, he looks like a grappler that thinks he's a striker. He's got to have decently heavy hands because he's touched a few guys and put them down. So, like, it's not the prettiest striking, but, you know, he's got to have some kind of power. So he's in the UFC for a reason, but I'm looking forward to ending his undefeated streak.
I was going to say he has got a submission game. That is, he's done a lot of grappling competitions. Because obviously being across the pond, I know of him around the scene, the regional scene, let's say the European scene, and that is kind of his thing, was a grappling aspect. But when it comes to pure grappling, it's not the same as with MMA. It's very different. For example, when you train in a gi and then you train in a no gi, totally different aspect to the sport. So he obviously has to adapt himself to MMA, but I'm sure you know yourself that you've got a few submissions under your belt in the MMA game. You've adapted yourself pretty well. I've spoke to a lot of people about you, and when I try to describe you, I say you're probably one of the best middleweights as an all-rounder. You know, you've got a high level of all-round skills. You've got the very good striking, the grappling game, and the submission game. You've earned your stripes outside the UFC before you got in there. You know, you really earned your stripes. There's people that got in the UFC that didn't earn them, and you earned your stripes.
I definitely took the long road to get in there, and, you know, it's all about timing, and I think that the way it happened for me ended up working out good. And like you said, you know, I appreciate you saying this, and I really do feel like I am an all-rounder. You know, it happens to be that, you know, I got 19 submission wins, so I just happen to be better at grappling than, you know, most people. But generally when people even ask me, I say, I'm going to beat you at what you're not good at. So I'm going to take you where you're not comfortable, and then I'm going to be so good everywhere else that even if I have to meet you where you're good, I'm going to be able to hold my own and give you some problems. So, you know, and I looked into him again, and he definitely seemed like more of a grappler. I didn't really do a lot of submission tournaments. I've done a couple, but it's one of those things where if you train something enough, you will be good at it. Like, we see a trend of guys not hitting as many submissions, especially off their back in MMA, and especially the UFC. And, you know, it's just one of those things where I want to be able to finish a fight from anywhere. I want to be able to finish a fight in a quote-unquote bad position. So, you know, I've got 2 submission finishes already in the UFC, and, you know, one is against a black belt who's actually, you know, a good friend of mine. But, you know, I don't think it'll be anything out of the ordinary for me. When I grapple him, I just have to keep it in my head that he's going to move a certain way once it hits the ground, if it does.
Yeah, well, that's the thing I was about to say, if it hits the ground, because, for example, Eric Spicely, you know, your striking, I think that's what's probably led to the submission wins, is because the striking probably was too much for a lot of the fighters, and so it just went to the ground because they probably felt that they can't get the advantage on the feet, so they'll have their go on the ground, and that's probably what led to some of these submission wins. The guys just couldn't beat you on the feet. They thought they'd beat you on the ground, and then obviously they didn't because you get the submissions. But and that's probably what it is, because that's the thing. People see the records, they don't see what led to the submission. If you're lighting someone up on the feet, they'll dive in for a takedown, then they leave their neck out there for a guillotine, or you know the score yourself. But it's something that a lot of fighters do, and a lot of people don't see that part of it if they just look at the record. And that's a big factor, is if you break their will on the feet, their go-to is they get the ground to the game, but they might not have that kind of let's say game plan to get a submission. They just want the fight on the ground to get out of the striking.
Right. And that's a good point to bring up, is, you know, really it's probably 50-50 as far as my submissions go. Like, there were some guys where I was like, all right, I'm not going to mess around on the feet. Just let me take them down and get this, you know, quick submission win. But then a lot of them, you know, at least half of them were like my very first UFC fight. I was, you know, giving it to the guy on the feet, everything he could handle, and he decided, it's like, all right, this isn't working out for me. Let me try to shoot in and, like, see how I fare on the ground. And that's, you know, just from a mindset standpoint, not necessarily something you want to do. Like, obviously, if you're losing, you know, MMA IQ says you should go for the takedown, but you should have a plan. It's like, I'm going to take him down to get on top of ground and pounder. I'm going to take him down to get this position to submit him. Not, well, shit, I'm losing on the feet. Screw it. I'll go down the ground and see what happens. Like, it's a bad way to go about your business.
It is. You see it a lot though. It's almost the equivalent of boxing's clinching when they just grab each other just to have that little break. But the problem with MMA, it's constant. There's a constant flow. But your game, obviously, you're striking. You got Duke Rufus, holding pads. He's not a bad dude. I shared some good times with Duke when he came to Glasgow, because obviously Paul was fighting in Glasgow, so I had a couple of late nights. We didn't get to bed about 6 a.m. A couple of drinks were involved with Duke. We had good times. But when you got him teaching your sparring partners, for example, you got your Pettis boys, you've got your Belil, you've got a great collection of guys around you to bring not only your striking up, but then you've got like Woodley's not too bad at grappling. He's all right. He'll do. But so you've got a great kind of collection of fighters around you with stronger skill sets, which is probably what's brought you up on a kind of great even keel. I suppose that's what's helped rounded your game off.
Oh, for sure. I mean, when I came to Rufus Sport, it was like 5 or 6 years ago, I think, if I remember correctly, and I was definitely more of a grappler, like, wrestling and jiu-jitsu when I first came, and then that definitely, sink or swim, and I had to rise to the occasion and, over years and years develop my striking into what it is now. And there's another thing is a lot of people don't expect, like Rufus Sport, we're known for kicks and all this other stuff, but a lot of people forget, like, Anthony submitted a lot of high-level guys, even, in some of his title defenses. And, even for me, I just won by knockout, and I was, doing pretty good on the feet with most of my guys in my UFC fights, but most of my wins are by submission. So it's like something you almost want to keep in your back pocket because, everyone wants to see the knockout. But, like you said, I got Paul, Bilal, Anthony, Biggie is out there. We got a bunch of younger guys that are hungry coming up. Tyron's, when he's in his camps, he's out there. And then, we got a really, really good jiu-jitsu coach, Daniel Wanderley, and that we're affiliated with the Carlson Gracie team. So we have a lot of different, pools to draw from. And then myself, I go and train at the Ashburn Wrestling Academy and, like, get some goes in with those guys. And, it's always great technique. So I have, like, just a perfect combination of world-class technique in every single area. And there's no way not to get better.
Askren is easily got the best transition of wrestling to MMA wrestling out there. It's almost a flawless formula that he has got. It's incredible. Now I know Woodley's great as well, but something about Askren, the way he does it, he's consistently successful. Like, people know what he's going to do, and nobody stopped it. It's not like you think, all right, he's going to come out with a flying kick. I know what you're going to do, but they just can't stop it. So, like I say, when you're just taking tips off him, God, they're nuggets, gold nuggets, them every time.
Oh, for sure. And, like, a lot of people don't understand, like, a lot of his stuff he did have to modify for sure for MMA, but his style, everyone says, oh, it's funk, like something you wouldn't normally see even in the wrestling community. But everything he does is for a reason. There's a reason he moves the way he does, or he'll roll through the way he does, because he can understand the consequences from being in that position. Mm-hmm. So it's not just like, oh, I'm going to go out there and feel it out. It's like, just like with all my other coaches, if Duke gives me a combination, there's a reason I throw it a certain way, or, I understand the options. If Daniel Wanderley, my professor, shows me a submission, it says, okay, you can go for this and understand these are the outcomes, the different directions, good and bad, it can go. So I have all these different coaches, and that's the biggest thing is I understand why I'm doing something and what can happen because I do it.
You had a recent member in the team sign up to the UFC as well through Dana White looking for a fighter. You had to keep that quiet. Obviously, you guys had to keep it stumped because it was recorded and, they had the editing and stuff and they put out finally. For you guys as a whole, when you obviously got to keep it quiet, but you must, when you see something like that happen, you must be buzzing for him because he's been on the region. Elias he's been doing really well on the regional. I've followed him for a little while now, and obviously I didn't know about it, but I was absolutely made up for the guy. He's a great prospect and great talent. So when you see another guy sign up for yourself, you must be good. You must be quite excited as well.
Oh man, I was super excited, and actually, it's a crazy story that I actually was with him for that fight. So we just happened to have, we got so many top level guys and so many guys going different places that, the coaches weren't available to go for it. And I had, I think I cornered, maybe it was Cam Olsen not too long before that. And then I was with, Biggie Nottingham. And there's a little bit before this, but there was a streak there where it was like, I forget where exactly I was going, but it was like 3 weeks in a row. It was like traveled somewhere, had a week off, then traveled 2 weeks in a row. And like I just got back from my last trip. And I forget, I think it was like I was up in Canada somewhere, and then I got back and like literally get a call, and Eli's like, "Hey man, can you go to Mexico tomorrow?" And I was like, "What?" he's like, "Yeah." Luckily, I have all my passport stuff caught up, but I was like, I just got back, and like I wasn't close to my fight, but I was like, okay, after this last one, I'm gonna get ready for my fight. He's like, no, I need somebody to go from, he's like, I want you to come with me, and none of the coaches can go, and everybody else is busy. Like, I'm comfortable with you holding for me. Can you, that's the thing is, especially being one of the, I'm not senior in the UFC, but I am one of like the guys with more fights on the team.
Oh yeah.
So like, well, one of my roles is to like be there when someone needs to fill in. So I was like, all right, screw it, let's go. We get there, and thank you, powers that be, that it was at like an all-inclusive resort. Because as soon as we landed, I was like, all right, this is okay.
It was not a bad resort.
Oh yeah, no, it was like a 4 or 5 stars where I was like, okay, I guess I could deal with this.
Oh man, it was a great show actually. It was great to watch because it was that Donald Cerrone having a couple of beverages as well at the show, and Dean Thomas, he's such a great guy. I had the absolute pleasure of meeting him for UFC Liverpool when he was over, man, and I got him out as well. Accidentally, we got him on a night out too. There's a correlation here whenever guys come over to the UK, but he was a great guy. So obviously, when you saw Dana, and obviously you weren't to know when you went over there, but when you saw Dana, did Dana come to you straight away and just say, look, we're getting him up? Like, did you talk beforehand? Did you anything like that?
So we actually didn't even see Dana. So like we were in Cabo, I believe, and it was kind of nice because I'm more of a low-key guy, but the resort we were staying at was a little more, for lack of a better term, like the adult area. So like generally Cabo is a big spring break destination. So I think originally they were like more on the like spring break party side for film and stuff. Obviously there's more going on and stuff like that. And then by the time Eli's fight came up, and I think they had this on the episode too, Dana had like some complication where it's like, I forget if it was being dehydrated or like some bright lights or something that like aggravates this condition.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then he dipped out before we even got out there to fight, which was, very unfortunate. But luckily, I know Dean too personally, and he actually knows some guys that I used to train with, and of course Duke, and he's been at our gym for camp, so got to hang out with him. But then as soon as we're done with the fight, there's Dean, Matt, Sarah, and Cowboy. Cowboy's actually got Anthony, who's Eli's cousin, on FaceTime, like facing the cage, so he can see the fight, and he got to see the whole thing live. And then as soon as Eli, he has this big knockout win, he's like, please let me in, and they love that. And like Matt Sarah's looking at me and said, hey, you're in. Like, don't worry about it, you're in. We're good to go. So we knew right then and there that it was go time, and I couldn't have been happier for him. It was a great thing to see.
Yeah, it is, and obviously that's like another. It's almost like a nice way for the gym to have, a nice momentum builder. Because obviously you've got your fight coming up. Tyrone is talking about coming back. He's looking to come back. He said August, I think he did, or something like that. So he's, it's great to see that he's healthy. The surgery went well, because it's always a big worry sometimes when people have big surgeries. It's just in your DNA. You want to get back into training. And you don't want to injure yourself. You'll know from experience, from you've had a couple of fights. The last thing you want to do, because when we were younger, you could kind of get away with coming back a bit quicker. But when you get into when you're 25 years plus, you start to realise you need to listen to that body. So I'm just glad that Tyrone has listened to his body, took his time, and not rushed it, because the last thing you want is him to be out for another 6-9 months. Look at Dominic Cruz. I think would be a great example of potentially, coming a bit back a bit too fast and not taking your time for the recovery. And that's something I imagine you've learned as well, over your time and career.
Oh, for sure. And I've been very, very fortunate. I've never had a real major injury like that from fighting. I got a couple of scars and I've had some stitches, but there's a couple nagging injuries, but nothing that requires surgery so far. And I think, having as many quick finishes in general and like submissions as I do helps that a lot. The shorter you're in the cage, the more times you can fight. So, probably wouldn't be able to have 30 plus fights if I was fighting to decision every single time out there. But yeah, luckily Tyron, he's taking his time. He's, getting back to it. And I know everyone's saying like, well, they're doing this interim belt and all this stuff, but it's very important to make sure you're at 100%, especially like with the animosity that's building around the fight. You don't want to run in there just because you're angry. You want to take the time, rehab your shoulder, get back in condition, let them see like the true best welterweight in the world.
Yeah, exactly. He's a fantastic competitor, fantastic champion, and I think the interim title was it was just ridiculous that they bothered doing it. To be fair, he wasn't even out that long. But do you know what? For them, it's a business decision. It means when they put a pay-per-view on, it says it's another title fight it's a title on there. So it's all business, but we know who the champ is. We know Tyrone is the champ.
For what it's worth, if they got that interim title on him now, and he wants to run around and like taking it to Donald Trump and like doing all this crazy stuff, that's only going to bump up the pay-per-view buys. And my man that, so in the end, if it's putting money in his pocket, it's all right.
Yeah, Tyler was just like, keep going, just keep going. I was going to say, you've interviewed in the past with other folk, and one of the boys, my man James Lynch. You did say you like Cosmos. Have you heard that there are talks about doing a second series of that?
Really?
Legit, I have heard that there is talks of a second series of Cosmos being done. I'm like you, I absolutely love it. I loved that that month planner of the Earth, of the solar system. Oh, that was amazing. I sat there and went, do you know what? Now I get it. It helped put things in perspective. I'm like you, I geek out with stuff like that. I'm in.
I didn't hear about that. I'm excited now. That's awesome. I really hope they make another one, because I went back and watched the original Cosmos, before the one came out, just to see it. I love the new one that came out. I have Star Talk Radio podcast on my phone, so I can listen to that as much as I can, and get all the information I can. And I've got Astrophysics for People in a Hurry. I read that on my last vacation. I just cracked open the other one. I forget the name of it that Neil deGrasse Tyson wrote, but I love that stuff. Another app you should check out if you're into that, it's called Solar Walk. It's a little bit older, but you can go to different within our solar system and even look at different stars, and it kind of gives you this 3D mapping thing, and puts it to scale as much as it can. It's a really cool thing.
Solar Walk. All right, I'll look into that. Yeah, definitely. I basically was at for Father's Day. I was at this. Oh gosh, I don't know how to explain it. It's only just recently been open where I live. It's called a dome. And it's a massive dome screen. So you sit down on these
planetarium.
Yeah. And it's just they did a constellation thing. I was like, yeah, you can put that back on again. Oh, it was fantastic watching. It was great. It was like a private showing, and he put on he said, what do you want to look at? I went, you got any space stuff? You just put anything space related, just stick it on. It's fine. And and you know what? Like you say, it was like having a big laptop, and I loved watching it, mate, because it was like you say, you can just watch it, and he's got loads of projects. I can't wait for more to come out, and also Blue Planet Season 2 is on Netflix now. Have you checked that out?
Oh yeah, I've probably watched that twice already. So
when the lizards going past the snakes.
Oh my goodness! No, that's on Planet Earth 2. Yeah.
Yeah, Planet Earth 2. Yeah. When that is, oh man, that's obviously. Have you seen it with Aussie commentary?
Oh, of course, that one and it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's almost like watching the UFC when you're like, oh my god, oh man,
hey,
you see the.
That iguana has some moves, man. He got out a couple of those you know what I'm saying? Yeah. He almost got. He was out of there.
It's addictive stuff, man. I love it. I love watching. I'm like you. I love watching stuff about the cosmos, but also the planet Earth. There's so much out there than just sitting in the cage. Like you say, it expands your mind, and it's a break from the monotony. That is the key, because if you're just sitting there thinking about pad work all day, every day, or, oh man, what's the 1, 2, 3 armbar position? Okay, you just go. You just go insane. It's too much. Your brain just it just goes into meltdown.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to Blue Planet too. That's like, because the first Blue Planet,
Yeah.
I friggin' love that. And like honestly, I watch it. I have to watch it during the daytime to like actually see what's going on, because usually what I'll do is I'll put on, and you can try this. Works really well for me. You put on episode 2 of Blue Planet, the first one, because it's the deep, so the lighting is down a little bit lower because they're in the depths.
The midnight zone, yeah.
But like David Attenborough's voice and like low lighting, I'm out. It's over. It is over. It's like, oh yeah, that's interesting. They got the look, vampire squid. Bam, it's done.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that one. Yeah, he has got this very relaxing voice, hasn't he? But he is like the ultimate granddad. Like if you had him as your granddad, it'd be the best thing ever.
Yeah. No, if you had Sir David Attenborough on one side and Anthony Hopkins on the other, a little Welsh flavor in there,
yeah.
Every story would be amazing. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. It would be great.
Hansel and Gretel. We'll read that again. Go on, David. Spit it out for us, son. Man, I'm with you, bro. I love that kind of stuff. But look, you're going to have a great fight coming up soon. You're going to have a big backing, big support. Obviously, you're fighting in the US, so there'll be a lot of people supporting you there at the event. Before I let you shoot off, mate, can you let everyone know what your social media is so they can jump on, give you a follow, and if you've already got a few followers already, but the more the merrier.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, on Instagram, I'm at _GM3. On Twitter, I think it's the real GM3. Just my name on Facebook. If you try to look up anything online, I'm sure it'll all pop up. Definitely a big shout out to my gym and my sponsors and everyone for supporting me. And thanks again for having me on, man. It was a lot of fun.
No, pleasure. Combat Corner is one of your sponsors, if I recall.
Combat Corner is the main one, yeah. If you need any gear for anything, gloves, shin pads, all that stuff, it's all I've used throughout my professional career. I highly recommend it. I
would recommend it too, but Duke, late at night, after a few beverages, says he was going to kit me out with it, and because I think I showed him my boxing gloves that I had, because I brought some gloves to train when I was over in Glasgow, and he said, no, you don't want them, you want to Combat Corner ones, I'll kit you out. And he fibbed. I'm still stripped naked.
Memory, maybe we'll get a package out there to you.
You say to him, the Isle of Man guy that kept you up till silly o'clock in the morning drinking whiskey. He'd be like, I know him. I made him miss Paul Felder's pad workout in the morning. Well, I say I made. He didn't wake up at 11 o'clock. I think he went to bed about 6:30. I went to bed at 7 a.m. I was up at 9. I was straight back there in the reception with the lads, and guys having a beer. And then Paul comes down to do some pad work. I'm like, where's Duke? He went, yeah, he's still asleep. Didn't wake up till 2 o'clock, I don't think.
That was all right.
It was good. But mate, thank you so much for your time. Again, have a great time in Vegas, and again, I'll be tuning in, and everyone else will be tuning in live. It's International Fight Week for the UFC, so it's going to be a great, awesome event and all-round positive vibe atmosphere, man.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, if you want to see an exciting fight, tune in.